Can you learn Blender in just 7 days? That's the question I asked myself a week ago. 7 days ago, I had never seriously used Blender before. I didn't know the shortcuts, the interface looked like a spaceship control panel, and even moving objects around was confusing. So, I gave myself 1 week to go from complete beginner to creating an animated mechanical spider. Here's what happened. Days 1 to 2. The BlenderGuru donut and mug. Every Blender beginner starts in the same place, the famous BlenderGuru donut tutorial. At first, I couldn't even navigate properly. I kept rotating the camera by accident, zooming into random places, and losing my objects. I spent more time figuring out how to move around the viewport than actually modeling. Eventually, I started understanding the basics: scaling, extruding, and using modifiers. Slowly, a simple torus started looking like an actual donut. Then came the icing. It looked terrible at first. Mine looked more like melted plastic than frosting, but after adjusting it and adding sprinkles, it finally started looking like something edible. After finishing the donut, I wasn't ready to stop there. I decided to follow another beginner project and made a simple mug. Compared to the donut, it was much easier, but it taught me even more about extruding faces and creating shapes from simple geometry. The most important thing I learned from these projects wasn't how to make food or cups. It was understanding Blender's workflow and becoming comfortable with the interface. By the end of day 2, I had my first finished renders, and honestly, I was pretty proud of them. Days 3 to 4, making my first animation. Now that I knew the basics, I wanted to make something move. I kept it simple, a cube. I learned about keyframes, timelines, and interpolation. The idea seemed easy. Set a position, move the timeline, change the position, and Blender creates the animation between those points. But my first attempts looked awful. The cube moved too fast, stopped suddenly, and didn't feel natural at all. I started experimenting with easing and timing. After several attempts, I finally made an animation that looked smooth. It wasn't impressive. It was literally just a cube moving around. But something clicked. For the first time, I understood that animation isn't just moving objects. It's about timing and making movement feel believable. That simple cube taught me more than I expected. Days 5 to 7, the mechanical spider. Now I wanted to build something much more ambitious, a mechanical spider. At first, it felt impossible. Unlike the donut, the mug, or the cube, this project had multiple moving parts. Legs, joints, body pieces, everything had to work together. I started by building simple shapes and combining them into something that resembled a spider. It wasn't pretty, but it was a start. Then came the hardest part, animation. I had to think about how spiders actually move. Which legs move together? How do they stay balanced? How do the joints bend? I watched videos of real spiders and studied their movements. Then I tried recreating those movements in Blender. The first animations looked ridiculous. The spider moved like it had forgotten how legs work. I kept adjusting keyframes, changing timings, and experimenting with different movements. After hours of trial and error, something amazing happened. It started to run. Not perfectly, not professionally, but it genuinely looked like a mechanical spider moving under its own power. At that moment, I realized how much I'd learned in just 1 week. 7 days isn't enough to master Blender, not even close, but it's enough to go from being completely lost to actually creating things. I learned modeling, texturing, rendering, keyframing, timing, and character animation fundamentals. Most importantly, I learned that every complicated project starts with something simple: a donut, a mug, a cube, and eventually, a running mechanical spider. This is only the beginning of my Blender journey, and honestly, I can't wait to see what I make next.